I'm back. And yesterday, talking about the printer, I said I would share my TPU print settings, and I was thinking about how to do that. Google Docs or something like that. Then several people through the day had hit me up on various sites, from YouTube to Instagram to Facebook. Hey, can you share your TPU settings? And I said, yep. It dawned on me, like, why don't I just make another little video? I'll just pull up my settings. I'll go through each tab. That way you can pause the video whenever you want to, copy my settings, and then I can tell you a little bit about some of the nuances as they come up. These are my settings. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of people out there that are going to be like, you're wrong, or it'd be better if it did this way. And I'm sure some of you will be right. Some will be wrong. But this is what I'm using, and it's working great for me. So at the least, it's a good starting point for new people trying to figure stuff out. And so much of 3D printing and FPV and stuff is for a large number of people is, I don't know how it works. I just know it works, and that's good enough for me. And that's where I am. When I started FPV, I was like, oh, I need to understand how every antenna works, and how attenuations and all this stuff. And now I'm just like, if it works, it works. I can care less why it works. And I think there's most people out there just like me. So let's pull up Bamboo Labs. Let's go through each tab. That way you can copy my settings. And I'll explain to you the one thing that you can't copy. You can copy it, but it's going to change depending on the TPU you choose. Various TPUs have various temperatures that you need to run them out. And that just comes from trial and experience. You're going to print some stuff and it's going to be crap, and I don't know what to do. So you're going to lower the temperature. Oh, it's still crap. You're going to increase the temperature. It's still crap. Okay, well, let me try bigger changes in temperature. And eventually, through that mix of stumbling through there, you'll finally get it. And then as you do those a few times, you start to pick up on, well, that looks like I'm running too cold. That looks like I'm running too hot. And before you know it, you kind of are stumbling through it less. All right. So, number one biggest tip on it before we get into that is dry your filament. Dry your filament. All filament arrives wet. It's absorbed moisture. It just doesn't print as well when it has moisture in it. And this goes for all filaments. Step number one on everything you ever print, make sure your filament is dry. Some are more forgiving than others, but all filaments should be dry. And there's various forms you can do that. You can put them, I don't like this method, but you can put it in the oven on a very low temperature and pray to God that you don't melt the rolls. The X1C cabinet, you can put 6 rolls of filament in there and turn it on, and it will run 24 hours heated, and you can thaw it out, dehydrate that way, which I don't care, because I don't want to put all that much strain on the heating element of my printer. Plus then you can't use it for 24 hours. Method I have is I purchased a cheap, crappy Walmart dresser drawer. I'll put the video up here. I took the shelves out, went around with tape and sealed up all the edges. I left a little airflow, but I sealed up most everything else. And then I just dumped a food dehydrator in it, and then put most of my TPU filaments in there. And then, since TPU needs to be better managed as far as being wet or not versus all of my hard filaments, I just TPU lives in that dehydrator. And then when I come home on Friday, I turn it on. I let the dehydrator run to Sunday night. I turn it off. It gets it down to around 10% humidity. And then I have 3 individual dehydrators that you can get from any one of the 3D printing companies. Sunlu or whatever makes one. There's several versions there. I've got 3 of those, so those sit on top of my Prusa. So when I'm printing Prusa, I can put those in there, and anytime I need to dry them, I can just run it. And so the more dehydrating, the better. You can dehydrate for 8 hours, and you're going to get a little bit of printing out of it before you get back into the wet filament again. I like to run mine for 24 hours. I like to run them for 48, 72 hours. I like to do it weekly. That way it's maintained at a certain level. And then just before I start printing something that's difficult, maybe something like this, I'll put it in one of those individual ones, and I'll run it for 8 hours, so that it helps get it in just a tad bit better state before I run a print job. I would recommend SaneSmart to start. The SaneSmart TPU. I'd recommend it. It's a great TPU. It's got a bunch of different colors. There's a ton of different TPUs out there that work well. The most popular one in FPV is SaneSmart. It's just easy. It's a PyroDrone sells it under their brand. And then you start with that, you're on the right track. You can dehydrate it. You can start printing and learning, and then you can start experimenting with other TPUs and exotic TPU filaments and stuff like that. That's my recommendation. Okay, so with all that said, let's open up Bamboo Studio. Let me switch it over to the desktop. There we go. So let's create a project. So A1 Mini. Okay. So I've got it on the fast setting. Let's go to slow. And so on first tab, I'm running at 0.16. You can leave it at 0.2. It will print a little bit faster. The layers are thinner. So 0.2, 0.18, 0.16 are going from thicker to thinner. Okay. Prettier print, takes a longer time. So nothing really different in these areas. I believe these were all standard settings. Strength preference, again, standard settings. You can change. You can increase the walls. You can change the patterns. You will change this a lot. This is how dense your print's going to be. If it's a GoPro mount versus and arm guards versus I don't know, an antenna holder or something like that. You obviously want your protection to be denser than some holder, a little antenna holder or something like that. So you'll increase this from 15 to 40%, 20%, whatever you want. All that standard. Speed, here's where we start to get into the nitty gritty of the slow profile. Dax's TPU slow. These are all the speeds that I've changed. Everything goes to 25. All right. Let's slow these down. And this is what I forgot to change the other day. And I left it on fast. We'll come back to fast. I'll show that to you as well. Support. Honestly, a lot of default here. I love tree. Tree is amazing. Your top Z distance, this is the distance between your support and your print. I like to change this to 2.25, 0.27, 0.24. Different prints, you may need to play with this sometimes. It's not always going to be the perfect distance on every single TPU print you do. Sometimes you're going to need to increase it. Sometimes you're going to need to reduce it. Default is 0.2, but I've increased it to 0.25, and that usually works 95% of the time. And then if I have supports that are printing on a layer of TPU to support a layer of TPU above it, I will then change the bottom Z distance to 2.5 as well. And it just puts a little gap. It prints just slightly in the air, and by the time that filament touches the part of the print, it's had a microsecond, millisecond to cool down a little bit, to kind of not adhere to the TPU print as if it's being printed on and meant to be printed there. And so here's all those settings. Nothing really different in here. Okay, so those are all the same thing. Now, let's get into the filament. And so we've got some changes in here. What did I change? I really don't remember what I changed. I know I changed the temperature. So 200, 250, min and max, because I have some TPU that can go up to 250. That's why it's at 250. Normally you don't print that hot. So for SaneSmart, you want this to be, for me, I run it at 220 for SaneSmart. That works beautifully for me. That's the nozzle temperature. I have some Pryline TPU that I have to run at around 230, so 229. And then I have some filamentum, I think. I haven't mastered it yet. It runs up to 250, so that's why I've changed this to 250. And I've been experimenting with this temperature going all the way up to 250. I haven't quite figured it out yet. It's not printing well, and I don't think I'm gonna like it. The color is beautiful, but once it prints, it's real bubblegummy, real stretchy, and it's not good for FPV. But I keep playing with it because it's such a vibrant, beautiful color that it'd be great for FPV. Volumetric speed, I changed this to 14. Cooling, 100, 100, 100. Layer, all these settings, I would match those. I did change the retraction length to 0.8. A lot of times you hear turn retraction off on TPU. I'm sure people are right, but for me, it's working flawlessly. And I don't think I have anything over this way. Yep. So that's those. So here, these temperatures, you're going to change when you change brands of TPU. If you stick with SaneSmart, you can set these to 220 and never touch it. And you can come up here and you can actually say, let's see, save Dax SaneSmart TPU, and then now you got that setting for SaneSmart. And then when you go to, what was the other one I was talking about? I don't remember. Pryline. That's I run at 239. You can come here. Pryline. I don't do that. I'm just too lazy. I just change the temperature. All right, so let's close that. Now, fast, discard. Fast, everything is identical except for the speed. The speed, I forgot to touch. And you can see the changes in the speed. That's the default. And so when I accidentally did that and saw that it printed out equally as well as the slow, I went ahead and saved it under Dax TPU fast. Someday I'm gonna come across a print job that's not gonna print well under fast. I think it's gonna be extremely rare because if this little delicate thing can print fast and be such good quality, there's going to be very few print jobs that can't handle the fast speed, but there's going to be one. And so now I can easily switch to the slow and, you know, knock off that print. I think that's it. That's everything I wanted to share. That's my TPU settings. You know, if you think you have better settings, comment. I'd like to read. Maybe you can school brother on something. For everybody else, I hope you found it helpful. It's a starting point at the least, especially if you're new. But I have 100% confidence in these settings. You draw your TPU and you put these settings in, you let that thing calibrate properly and stuff like that. Very few people should have any issues with printing out good TPU. Just very little. I mean, the A1 and basically is killing the 3D printing industry and FPV. I mean, there's absolutely no reason to sell 3D prints anymore because anybody can print it themselves now at top quality. I'm just saying. So that said, peace out. Love ya. Happy flying. Happy printing. Get it.